Somewhere in Florida right now, a homeowner is staring at a number on their screen and wondering where $80,000 went. It didn't vanish overnight. It bled out slowly, month by month. Listing after listing. Price cut after price cut. Florida was supposed to be the promised land. The pandemic sent half of America flooding into the Sunshine State, chasing low taxes, warm weather, and the dream of owning a piece of paradise. What they got instead was a bubble. And now that bubble is correcting fast. 4 of the 5 worst performing U.S. housing markets in 2025 and 2026 are located in Florida. Some of these cities have lost nearly 20% of their peak value. Others are sitting on inventory levels not seen in over a decade. And most of the people who live there or who just bought there have no idea what is coming next. Today we are going to name them. All 10. We are going to show you the data and tell you what it means for the years ahead. Stay with us. To understand what is happening in these 10 cities, you have to understand what happened to Florida over the past 5 years. Between 2020 and 2022, Florida was the most sought-after relocation destination in the entire country. Remote workers poured in. Demand exploded. Home prices shot up 30, 40, even 50% in some markets in just 2 years. Florida saw net domestic in-migration of over 300,000 people in 2022 alone. By 2025, that number had collapsed to just 23,000. When the migration boom ended, so did the demand that was propping up those prices. The buyers who used to flood in stopped coming. But it was not just slowing migration. 3 forces converged to turn a cooling market into something much more serious. Force 1, insurance. Florida homeowners are paying some of the highest premiums in the country. In Miami-Dade, rates exploded by more than 300% in recent years. For buyers, that is not an abstract cost. It is added directly to their monthly payment calculation, and in market after market, it is pricing them out. Force 2, inventory surge. As sellers tried to lock in peak prices before the correction deepened, listings flooded the market. In some cities, active inventory doubled or tripled. Force 3, mortgage rates. Rates remain stuck above 6% through 2025 and into 2026. The same home that cost a buyer $1,800 a month in 2020 now costs nearly $3,000. Put those 3 forces together, and you have the conditions for what we are about to show you in 10 specific cities across the state of Florida. Let us begin. Number 1, Cape Coral. Cape Coral sits on the largest network of navigable canals in the world, more than 400 miles of waterways. For a few years, it was one of the hottest real estate markets in the entire country. Now it is one of the fastest declining. According to Realtor.com data, the typical single-family home in Cape Coral sold for nearly 7% less in 2025 than the year before. Down more than 13% from the 2022 peak. The canal factor that once made Cape Coral so desirable is now a liability. Waterfront properties carry the highest flood insurance burden in the state. As insurers pulled out or repriced risk after Hurricane Ian, buyers began doing the math and walking away. Sellers who bought at peak still want peak prices. Buyers who ran the insurance numbers want a significant discount. That standoff produces only one outcome over time: the price falls toward the buyer. Number 2, Punta Gorda. If Cape Coral is in trouble, Punta Gorda is in a deeper hole. This small Gulf Coast city became a retirement haven during the pandemic boom. Prices surged by almost 40%. Then Hurricane Ian arrived. Active inventory in the Punta Gorda area ballooned to 114% above the long-term historical average. Homes are sitting on the market for an average of 91 days. The retirement demographic that drives this market is also its vulnerability. Older homeowners on fixed incomes cannot absorb insurance shocks the way younger buyers can. When premiums doubled, many simply listed and left. 31% of active listings in this market currently have price cuts. Number 3, Northport and the Sarasota area. Northport is a case study in what happens when a market prices itself on pandemic-era assumptions, and then the assumptions disappear. The Northport-Sarasota-Bradenton Metro saw some of the most dramatic price escalation in the state. It also saw some of the most dramatic correction, down 20% from the 2022 peak. The Surfside condo collapse in 2021 triggered statewide safety legislation that hit this region particularly hard. Condo owners were suddenly facing special assessments, sometimes in the tens of thousands of dollars. Many condo owners simply could not pay the special assessments, so they listed instead. The resulting condo inventory surge on top of an already softening single-family market created a double pressure system that has been grinding prices down ever since. Number 4, Naples. Naples doesn't fit the stereotype of a crashing market. It's still one of the wealthiest small cities in America. But the data doesn't care about stereotypes. Naples recorded the single largest year-over-year price decline of any Florida metro in May 2025, nearly 19%. When luxury markets correct, they often correct sharply. The buyers who can afford $800,000 homes have options. They are not desperate. They can wait. And when sellers have carrying costs and buyers can wait, sellers have to move price. Naples also took a direct hit from Hurricane Ian and the subsequent insurance repricing. Gulf-front properties in some zip codes are now paying premiums that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. Number 5, Tampa. When the third largest city in the state starts leading national lists for price reductions, that is not a local story anymore. That is a systemic signal. Tampa ranked among the highest percentages of price reductions of any major U.S. city. Insurance premiums in Tampa jumped by more than 213% in recent years. Tampa's rise was real. The city genuinely attracted corporate relocations and remote workers through 2021 and 2022. But prices overshot the base significantly. And now the correction is pulling them back. Sellers are discovering that the buyers who would have paid peak prices in 2022 simply do not exist at today's insurance rates and mortgage levels. Tampa's condo market is under particular stress. The Surfside legislation applies statewide. Some buildings have issued six-figure special assessments to unit owners. Those owners are now sellers. Number 6, Sebastian and Vero Beach. Smaller market. Less national attention. But significant pain. Sebastian Vero Beach saw the largest single quarterly price decline in Florida in early 2025, 8.2% year-over-year. Projected a further 10% decline into 2026. Sebastian's challenge is layered. It is not a large employment hub. Most of the buyers here were retirees or near retirees. When insurance costs climbed, that buyer pool dried up faster than almost anywhere in the state. The market here is thin on both sides. Not many buyers, not many sellers willing to accept what the market is actually offering. That kind of standoff tends to resolve in one direction over time. Number 7, Fort Myers. Fort Myers sits at the heart of the Cape Coral Metro and shares much of its trajectory, but with an added layer of complexity. Ian did not just damage homes here. It damaged the regional real estate psychology. Buyers researching Southwest Florida as a retirement destination started looking at storm tracks. What they found gave them pause. The Cape Coral Fort Myers Metro saw a 9.2% year-over-year price decline, fourth worst in the entire United States. Fort Myers is also dealing with a builder glut. New construction from 2021 and 2022 continued coming online through 2024, adding supply into a market where demand had already weakened. New homes compete with existing homes. Number 8, Jacksonville. It is not a coastal resort town. It is a large, diverse metro with genuine employment. And yet it is showing up on every list of Florida markets with accelerating price reductions. Jacksonville ranked in the top tier for price reduction percentages nationally. Insurance premiums here increased 226% in recent years, despite Jacksonville being less exposed to Gulf storms. That is the systemic nature of Florida's insurance market. Proximity to the coast matters, but proximity to the whole state's risk pool matters too. Jacksonville also has a significant military and government workforce, which provides stability. But the discretionary buyer, the relocator, the investor, the upsizing family, that buyer is on the sidelines. Number 9, the Villages. One of the most unique real estate experiments in American history. An entire city built specifically for people over 55. Golf carts on every street. It was also one of the hottest real estate markets in the country during the pandemic. Retirees moved in with cash from northern home sales. Prices surged accordingly. The villages saw an 11.3% year-over-year price decline as of May 2025. Median home price dropped to $347,000. The villages is still the villages. The lifestyle still sells. But the price, for the first time in years, is actually negotiable. Number 10, Lakeland in Winter Haven. An inland, middle-class market. Which is exactly why it matters as the 10th city on this list. Lakeland and Winter Haven became significant relocation targets during the pandemic, close to Tampa and Orlando, but significantly cheaper. Prices rose sharply as demand spilled inland from the coasts. Voiceover. Lakeland Winter Haven saw a 2.5% year-over-year decline in early 2025, and the trend is accelerating. Lakeland was the relief valve. The affordable alternative. If even the cheaper inland markets are softening, the correction is no longer contained to the expensive coastal cities. It is spreading. Let's be direct about what this data means in practice, because the numbers only tell half the story. For the homeowner who bought at or near peak in Cape Coral, in Punta Gorda, in Northport, these percentage declines represent tens of thousands of dollars in lost equity. In some cases, the homeowner is now underwater, they owe more than the home is currently worth. For the seller trying to exit the market, perhaps a retiree who needs to unlock equity to fund care costs, the situation is more urgent. They may be forced to accept a price they never planned for. For renters and first-time buyers watching from the sidelines, prices are lower than they were. But insurance costs are still high. Mortgage rates are still above 6%. And for investors who bought multiple properties expecting continued appreciation, some are now facing a decision: hold and bleed, or sell at a loss and move on. Florida's condo market is sitting at nearly 10 months of supply. In a balanced market, 6 months is neutral. Nearly 10 months means sellers are waiting a very long time and often accepting very different prices than they expected. The question everyone with money in these markets is asking right now is a simple one: is this the bottom? Or is there more to come? The honest answer, based on available data and forecasting models, is that the correction is not finished. Realtor.com projected Cape Coral home prices to fall an additional 10% by 2026. 7 of Florida's 8 largest cities projected for further declines. Mortgage applications nationally fell nearly 10% toward the end of 2025, even as borrowing costs eased slightly. Lower rates alone are not bringing buyers back. And climate risk is not going away. Hurricane seasons are being modeled as increasingly severe. Florida insurance costs have a long-term structural floor that did not exist a decade ago. There is also the demographic math. A retiree who planned on moving to Florida in 2026 may be looking at very different numbers than they planned for in 2021. Finally, and this may be the most underappreciated risk, there is contagion. Decline in Cape Coral affects perceptions in Fort Myers. Decline in Naples ripples through the surrounding county. These markets are not isolated. The sun still shines. The beaches still exist. The state still has no income tax. But the story that Florida property was a one-way bet, that the migration wave would never end, that prices would keep climbing regardless of insurance costs or mortgage rates, that story has been revised. The 10 cities on today's list are not disasters. They are corrections. Painful for those who bought at the peak. Potentially interesting for those who have been waiting. Data from the first months of 2026 shows that 4 of the 5 U.S. metros with the worst price declines are in Florida. The state's net migration is running at less than 8% of its 2022 peak. What this tells us is that the market is in the process of finding a new equilibrium, one based on the actual, durable economics of living in Florida in 2026 and beyond. Stay informed.